Hey there, it's Dorleen. Welcome to my creative life. I'm doing all kinds of sorts of crafty fun today. I am creating a fun fold card, which is called an inside out flip card. And the reason why it's called that is because it does just that. It flips from the inside out. So I take a 4¼ by 11½ piece of paper, and that's basically taking an 8½ by 11 piece of paper and cutting it in half lengthwise. And then I'm scoring at 2¼ and 5½. Don't worry, I'll have all the dimensions on my blog post, which I'll have a link to that in the information box. And once I do that, I'm taking the paper to the 4½ inch side and an inch from the left, and I'll also do it on the right, all the way down to that very first score line. I'm going to cut that off, or cut that down, and then cut across. So now I have a tab. You see that over on that left-hand side? Well, I guess it's on the right-hand side. But I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. So then I'm going to have this notch on the that 2½ or 2¼ inch tab area. And that's what's going to create the fun flip that we're going to be doing. Now, when I saw this card, I thought, oh my God, this is so cute. And I just couldn't comprehend, or I couldn't think about how it was flipping, because you use the same cardstock on the base as you do for the part that flips. And it's really just kind of like, huh? And that's what I love the most about fun fold cards, is because they look so hard, but they're really just so easy. Now, this card ends up being the same A2 card, which is the 5½ by 4¼ inch card that fits in an envelope. It's just that it has this little fun flip. So I'm going to create another piece of paper, again, using the same colored cardstock, which is that white. It actually has some specks in it, but you can't really see that on camera. But I'm going to cut that down to 4½ by 2¾ and again, that's going to adhere on that little tabby flippy thing. You like my vocabulary, I'm sure. And so that's what's going to flip. But once you see me put some adhesive on there, you'll see that a little bit more in motion. Well, you can kind of get the feel for it there. But I'm going to be using this Lucille Ball stamp set from Scrappy Boy Stamps, and I bought this stamp set at the expo. I'm also going to be using this really fun vintage purse paper from a pad from Dear Lizzie, and it's called It's All Good. I thought these purses really had a retro feel, and with that retro, I Love Lucy or Lucille Ball, I thought it really just coordinated very well. And I hope you agree, but this is one of my favorite paper pads. It just has really pretty colors and just a really good variety. Oops, sorry about that. There's a motorcycle going around in my neighborhood. So I cut that pattern piece of paper at 4 by 5¼ and I'm going to just glue it right in the middle on the inside of the card. Now I am going to put another piece of paper that is a little bit smaller than that flippy paper. So the flippy paper, the one on top, was 4½ by 2¾ The one inside is going to be 2½ by 4¼ So it just fits a little bit smaller than that little flippy, so that you can't see it when it's closed. I hope that makes sense, but just keep on watching. It'll make sense. I also decided to add some of this purse paper on the front, and this is cut at, I believe it's 2½ by 4. But like I mentioned before, I'm going to have, or 2¼ by 4. I'm going to have the measurements on my blog, so don't worry about what my memory is telling you. So I'm just going to use some adhesive, and I'm going to put it on that tab. Now, you really want to use a very strong adhesive anytime you're doing any kind of movement with your cards, because people are going to flip it. And you can tell even just while I'm putting this together, all I want to do is play with this little flippy thing. So a very strong liquid adhesive is great, or even like a double-sided tape, versus not the tape runner that you see on my desk right now, because that's probably not going to be strong enough for all that flipping and flapping. I mean, it'll hold, but if you want it to really hold, you want to use something stronger. So anyhow, like I mentioned before, I'm going to put a piece of white cardstock, or the same, cardstock, in the middle of the back, and you can use this to put your sentiment or your greeting, but I'm actually going to put another stamp sentiment in there. And then when you open up the card, there's that white base that's on that left-hand side. That's where I figure is a good place to put your greeting to, whoever's receiving this card. So I'm looking at this and I realize I do want another pattern paper on the little flippy thing. So I'm going through my same paper pad and I'm going to put this paper that I'm showing you now, because it's white and it has words, but it's not a real bold pattern paper. And I don't want anything really bold because I'm going to be putting my Lucille Ball on there, plus some more sentiments on there, stamp sentiments from the kit, or from the stamp set. But the I Love Lucy stamps, I went ahead and stamped her a couple of times and I put her aside. I wanted it to wait because I really want that black ink, archival ink, to dry before I try to do any kind of coloring. Now normally I'll use my alcohol markers, but on my desk I also have a set of chalk pencils, and I've had these forever. These may have been one of the, maybe not the first things I bought, but you know how like you kind of buy the latest and greatest, and this was probably in the early 2000s. Well, it was in the early 2000s, but I do like it. It's just very subtle, but it's also very easy. So I'm not going to show you when I color it in, but the magic of video, here it is. So you can just see, very simple. I actually used, or I'm going to use, a water brush to just kind of spread that chalk around a little bit. It doesn't really need it, but it also doesn't look as, what's the word I'm thinking of? Not choppy, but you know, it just looks a little rough when you don't smooth it out a little bit. It would have been fine. It's a small enough image, but I just felt like, you know, I have the water brush, why not use it? But again, very simple. I didn't do a whole lot of shading, things like that. It was just some basic coloring with some chalk pencil. I did, however, add both red and orange to her hair to give it a little bit more of that darker. I didn't want it really red and I didn't want it orange, so I did a combination of both. I thought it turned out really cute. And then I just stamped one of the sentiments on the set, which is really cute. It says something like, best friends don't judge each other, we judge other people, or something like that, which is hilarious to me. So I was just going to put them straight on that pattern paper, but if you look at that, you can see it kind of gets lost because there's words in the background already. So I had that navy blue scrap piece of paper, so I'm just going to put little borders around each of the different sentiment strips. Whew, a little bit of a tongue twister there. And that just kind of just makes it pop out a little bit against that other paper that has words on there, and that's what I want. I don't want it to be too confusing. Now I just use my scissors, or I just use a cutter. They are not even in any way, and normally that would kind of bug me, but I'm fine with it. I don't normally use my hands or to cut things with my own scissors. I usually use a cutter for that, but this small of a thing, it worked out fine. And I went ahead and just cut some foam adhesive to put behind Lucille Ball, and that's what's going to make her pop a little bit on the front of that card. But this is it, people. I really do like this card. I think it's really fun, and I hope you agree. So make sure you check out my blog, because like I mentioned, it'll have all the measurements and also just some close-up pictures. So, you know, that always helps with when you're making something, to have the pictures and all the instructions and all that kind of stuff. But I hope you do like this, and if you do, give me a thumbs up. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I do post 2 videos a week. One is always scrapbooking, and the other is whatever it is I'm creating in the Command Center, which is the name of my craft room and also my blog. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this. Bye.